I was thinking about it, just like all the different gods and stuff here. It's gonna be interesting to see what comparison between the one and the many.
Yes.
Wake up, the I am piece of it.
Well, the emphasis all the way through, then people will know that I am the Lord. And set himself up above everything else. But what's the everything else? I don't think we have a firm grasp of the everything else. Deep in Upper Egypt lies a city surrounded by the unforgiving sand. Welcome to Luxor. Known in Moses' time as Thebes, this was the seat of power for the 18th, 19th, and 20th dynasties, also known as the New Kingdom. New is a relative term, as Luxor was at the height of its glory between 1600 to 1000 BC. At the heart of the city, the Karnak Temple, the temple and fortified complex built to worship the Egyptian god Amun-Ra, the god of the sun. No place better speaks to the influence of the Egyptians' polytheistic religion than Karnak. If you were the king, this city was holy ground, and you wanted your story told on the temple pillars. If you were a Hebrew slave, Karnak was the essence of opulence and power, and you were afraid of the gods that lived within its walls. Our team is meeting Ahmed. He's an Egyptologist and one of the leading experts on the Karnak temple complex. So many different parts to Karnak. It is huge. How does it fit into the chronology of Egypt?
So Karnak actually, according to the chronology and according what we found here, we took about 1900 BC, the 12th dynasty rulers who built a shrine to Amun-Ra at the far eastern side of Karnak.
So Karnak would have been in existence during the lifetime of Moses.
It could be, yeah, because if we talk about the 12th dynasty, we bought Abraham, and then we bought Joseph, and then Moses is after.
So what is the significance of all of these pillars?
Symbolism was very important in ancient Egypt, actually. Here, 134 columns. Of course, the number has its religious meaning in Egypt, but in general, it represents the bulrushes or the rites. In ancient Egypt, bulrushes represent the sacred dark place where the birth of the sun. But also in Judaism, the bulrushes where Moses was rescued. Let's go and see the most important shrine of Amun, the central shrine.
So the shrine of Amun?
Yes, that's the shrine of Amun-Ra.
So I always pronounced it Amun-Ra.
Amun-Ra, yeah,
But
or Amun-Ra. Yeah,
Amun-Ra.
it's both really are correct depending on the pronunciation in hieroglyphics, actually. So here were three standing statues gonna be here welcoming the priests who are visiting the temple. And Seti the second is paying homage to the sacred Ark of Covenant of Amun. You know the idea of the Ark of the Covenant?
Yes.
That's from ancient Egypt. Let's see the Ark of the Covenant of Amun. The ram-headed barge of Amun actually with a golden collar being carried every year in a festivity leaving from here to Luxor temple. So his Seti the second is offering more food, different kinds of food like flowers, like pomegranate, like grapes and figs. This is like a cucumber or eggplant. And more flowers and more bread. Non-fermented bread was very important to be introduced to the Ark of the Covenant.
So unleavened.
Unleavened.
Unleavened bread.
Unleavened, yeah. So that's really an ancient Egyptian tradition, maybe passed to the Hebrews communities who were in Egypt. The food being given by Seti II, who was given the title Mi-Ra. Mi-Ra means you're going to be born forever as light. As we saw the stone architecture, now we have the earliest Egyptian architecture, mud brick structure.
How far back does this go?
Well, actually, mud structures date back to more than 4,000 years before Christ.
Wow.
We talk about pre-dynastic, but actually this is very recent. You can say 400 BCE, but we are still debating why it is here. Is it a ram, a causeway to construct the facade, or a structure was built by a Jewish or a Coptic community? So the shape of the mud bricks actually does not give us an idea about a causeway.
But mud brick goes back a long, long time, even before this.
True. That's, as you know, there are a lot of villages that are still doing it, and we have scenes of mud industry in the walls of the tombs, an amazing show, different people. They were Nubians, they were Egyptians, they were Canaanites and Syrians. Mud brick industry was the work of poor families at that time. Not only Jews, but still Egyptians who did it. So Jeremy, we're moving now to see one of the most fascinating and important objects at Karnak, this wonderful marble altar. Actually, we have different altars, a horned altar and then a flat altar. But we're still debating actually what is the function of this altar. Did they use this altar to put the burned offerings, if it is a big religious community lived here and practiced or performed the ritual, did they have the burned offerings on this marble altar? Or still, as the scholars believe, it is the sacred altar where they put the barge of Ammon, or the sacred boat. We saw it on the walls of the room. Even today, there is a recent theory talking about it as a sundial.
So what is the significance of the layout of this place with the sun?
Karnak is precisely aligned to the rising winter sun. And then it's like the journey of the sun from the east, where the birth of the sun in winter, to the west, where the death of the sun after sunset or after the summer solstice on the 21st of June. And amazing in hieroglyphics, this long avenue from the east to the west was given the name in hieroglyphics as Wat Em Ra, Uben, the sacred root where Ra rises, and Wat Em Ra, Heteb, the sacred root where Ra sits.
Do we know how far back the Egyptians worshipped the sun?
Well, I have to say the word worship is still debated. I have to say that they venerated the sun.
Venerate.
The word venerate, because the sun in their eye is a unique disk. It comes with no power, no seen power behind it. Who pushes the sun to rise? Who pushes the sun to set? So in their image is the manifestation of a one God, or a hidden or invisible power, as the ancient Egyptians used the sun to guide their life, their harvest, their priesthood, or their rituals in temples and tombs. Exactly, the value of the king's tombs aligned to the sun, but there are some temples at Karnak were aligned to the moon.
Yeah. So in the last couple of days, I've visited with a couple of people. There was somebody over on the Nile, it was a captain, and talked about how he venerated the river. He venerated the Nile.
That's true, because the Nile is the lord of navigation. They can navigate by the help of the moon, the stars, and the Nile. Even you know how to navigate not only modern technology that they enjoy, but it's still the rising stars. Here we are in the most important part in the temple. We call it the Holy of Holies, or the sanctuary. And actually it was in hieroglyphics per neter, which means the sacred house of Amen, where there was a statue of Ammon. The birth of the sun starts from here, and the light is spread from this moment, or from this room, to the central colonnade, and then to the outer court, and then farewell to the sun when it sets behind the mountains, where the kings and the queens buried in what we call today the Valley of the Kings and the Queens. So Ra comes to life in December and dies in June. And this is how life imagined by the ancient Egyptians, the beginning of the universe from darkness to shadow life to light, and then back again to the world of night or darkness behind the mountain.
Very cyclical.
That's what we call the cyclical time in ancient Egypt, from darkness, shadow, light, in darkness again.
Why is the stone so dark? I'm assuming they would make sacrifices.
Of course, still, sacrifices and offerings is a big topic in ancient Egypt. They have their meaning. Sacrifices, that were really very important. Rams were prohibited or were not really sacrificed in ancient Egypt because they were representing one of the manifestations of Amen as a ram-headed divinity. That was the clash between the Israelite community and the Egyptian community because of that kind of animal sacrifices.
Yeah.
If we talk about the Pharaoh of the Exodus, this is really a big topic. Who persecuted them? The word the Pharaoh actually means a tyrant because he made himself the sun, which is really still, I think this is the glory of the Bible and the Quran and the religious text, that we still search for the Pharaoh.
Yeah.
From today to the end of the world.
Yeah. So the event happened.
Yeah, it happened.
Yeah.
It happened, absolutely, it happened.
Yeah.
But who was? This is still the question.
Still a question.
The question,
There is a lot to see at the Karnak temple complex. It's actually a bit overwhelming. What you have are layers upon layers of history. This site stretches more than 600 years across 3 Egyptian dynasties. There's a lot that I'm processing from my visit. For one thing, the connection between icons we see in the Bible to ancient Egypt. The Ark of the Covenant wasn't a new concept to the Hebrews, and the Egyptians had a room in their temple considered to be the Holy of Holies, similar to what we see with the tabernacle and the temple in Jerusalem. This made me think of a couple of things. First, as God described how he wanted to be worshipped, he used some concepts that would have been familiar to the Israelites, but then gave details that were unique to his relationship with them. For example, he instructed them to build the tabernacle and the Ark of the Covenant to communicate that he was present among them. But in contrast to Egypt's many gods, he was one God, and insisted that there be no physical depictions of him, no idols, no carvings, which is a demonstration of his compassion for the Hebrews. Next, I think these similarities help to reinforce the truthfulness of Scripture. These hieroglyphs, these rooms, are extra-biblical sources that point to similarities with what we read in the Bible. I love that. I think it really helps us better understand the world of the ancient Hebrews.
You read about how wealthy the pharaohs were, the lifestyles of the rich and famous, like this is how they live, and people perceive them as deity. And that's what Moses was connected to. He was adopted into a family like that. And he turned his back on that and walked away from that, especially when he went into Midian and starts serving as a shepherd.
Moses was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. And he led his flock into the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. And Moses said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, why the bush has not burned. When the Lord saw that he had turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here I am. Do not come near. Take the sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. Now you shall see what I will do to Pharaoh. For with a strong hand he will send them out, and with a strong hand he will drive them out of the land. And the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord.